The paper cinema can be really hard to describe.
It's a beautiful way of telling a story.
It's a collaboration between musicians and visual artists.
Silent film with live music.
It's supposed to be a live film. You get to see the backstage and you get to see how everything's made.
Basically like a live action comic book.
Paper cinema has now been going for about 16 years, I guess, and it very much started out as a bit of fun, coming out of the Dorset Bournemouth music scene and meeting Chris and Imogen, co-founders. We found that we could use the medium of live feed camera and paper puppeteering to Chris's music. To hone the art, we looked into doing kind of shorts, and then in 2012 we actually made an adaptation of the Odyssey, and that was a big epic that we took on, and so we're kind of taking on these technical challenges of how to do it and whether we can stretch the form further. We were talking with BAC about possibly making a Shakespeare and which one to look at against the Odyssey, which is, it was dramatic but it was light and lovely. We just wanted to see whether we could go stronger and heavier, and Macbeth kind of came up.
The idea of the Scottish weather and the medieval themes and the sort of the psychological drama of the piece, that sort of made me think of we could go to a place the paper cinema hasn't really gone before, and that was kind of exciting.
The writing process starts with a reading process, and I'm normally the person that takes the first principle run at it. I went down to the pub to have a pint, mentioned it, and because it's such a key text here in Britain, that I had other people that had done it for A-level and managed to have a little group critique. When I kind of know what the characters are and where we've got to hit, then it's just straight down to kind of storyboarding. Kind of classic film storyboards, you're always looking at kind of squares and rectangles and traditional framing, whereas it's more like an exploded comic book page where I'm drawing it and looking to see if I can get 2 or 3 shots and moments from the same puppet. Then I will present that all to the musicians and also the puppeteers.
We started by having a writing session with the 2 of us and another musician, Quinta, and we just wrote lots and lots of little themes.
Yeah, but kind of shaping it around a character, weren't we?
Yeah, all the events, all the characters, all the big moments, and then just trying to come up with a little musical phrase or something. Then we took it onto a second stage where we were starting to work alongside the visuals.
We took the A5 drawings and blew them up to A3 and then cut them out as working puppets to do the first run through. So at that point we're kind of massaging the music and the movements and seeing where they want to suggest and what needs to happen.
What you're shown up on our projection is all done live on stage. It's not controlled by someone sitting in the background. It's us who control when the image goes up or down and which camera is in use at what time.
And with me and Nick, it's very much like a little dance and choreography between us, because obviously there's a lot of puppets that we have divided between us. So you move these, you move that, you move the hand of that puppet and I move the body of this.
And sometimes we need pregnant pauses or we need a sudden moment, and those are kind of drawn and designed and put in there until we're all merging together and working as a whole.
I really liked seeing how the visual language has evolved in this piece as well, with more visual effects like smoke and blood, things like that.
Because of the nature of Macbeth, that it's set in the castle and that kind of sturdiness, and so we had to kind of ground it because it had to have that weight. For this, we looked into back projection and built the 3rd camera position, which Cat operates.
Anytime you see forest or mountains or leading up to the castle, I'm filming that, and that's getting projected behind the actual live puppetry, creating kind of that 2-layer depth. I also have a second camera that I do the effects on, and so like ink and water to create mist and paint and water to create blood.
Probably have around 200 something puppets on my tables. In the beginning of the show, it's a puppeteer's job to make sure that your puppets are stacked the right way. So the very first puppet is on top of the pile, and then you go down the pile. We've been constantly asked that, how do you remember the puppets? Are they numbered? But no, they're not numbered. You simply remember. It's an image, it's a choreography.
We're always reacting to what's happening on the screen, and also maybe out the corner of your eye what the puppeteers are up to. If something, if they've dropped loads of stuff, like you have to be very aware, like full immersion kind of thing.
We have cues that we're waiting for, or cues that we give. So there's a feedback happening. They're listening for certain things, feeling certain rhythms.
The music is just as kind of free as the puppetry. It's a weird energy you kind of feel, and when it's spot on, it's amazing.
I can't play an instrument, and it's like magic when I watch those guys.
Trying to create a really coherent soundscape in the way that you might experience when you see a film, but we're doing it all live without having a sort of 60-piece orchestra.
I play a lot of acoustic instruments, so we also, for Macbeth, we have like MIDI keyboards.
We're bringing quite a lot of our own influences into the piece, specifically like film soundtrack things, these medieval sounds and drone and rock music textures as well.
I mean, our nickname is Macbeth, isn't it?
Yeah.
Between us. And then we have our Foley table, where we're making lots of like live sound effects, stabbing the cabbage when we're killing the king.
There's a Foley door. Oh, a wind machine.
The wind
There's a
machine.
wind machine.
Yeah. So yeah, we're always trying to make the sound effects happen in real time.
The next adventure, I guess, it's to change and challenge ourselves. One of the reasons to look at Macbeth and looking at Shakespeare is about, can we do theatre in theatre? Can you do Shakespeare without words? There is so much in Shakespeare, even though the language and the philosophy and the understanding of humankind is in the words and stuff like that. Because we're wordless, but we have the emotion and drive in there. We can communicate across languages, so it makes it more universal. It's been very nice when we've played it that we have people understanding Shakespeare, that even English-speaking people find Shakespeare to be impenetrable. But by doing it wordlessly, they get to see the drivers and the emotions like that.